Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday, May 17th meeting of the Dover Area School Board. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mrs. Benko. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Deschaux? Mr. DeLauder?
Here.
Mr. Eifert?
Here.
Mr. Emig? Mrs. Herman? Mrs. Maley? Mr. Rawhauser?
Here.
We have 5 members present.
Just a quorum. That was close. Okay, first on our agenda tonight is a presentation for our friends at North Salem Elementary.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This year at North Salem, we had a big goal to try to include as many students as we could into the regular education curriculum. We successfully did that, especially in 3rd and 5th grade. So tonight we brought some 3rd and 5th graders that benefited from the program along. So I'll introduce them and then they're gonna raise their hands when I call their name. So we have Bryn Stamball from 5th grade, Noel Marshall from 5th grade, Graciela Nazario from 5th grade, Damian Goldsby from 5th grade, Dade Stamball from 3rd grade, Madison Poole from 5th grade, and Anthony from 3rd grade. So we are glad to have them all here, and I'm going to let them tell you why they valued this program.
In conclusion, is a good thing at North Salem because everyone is learning the same things.
In my opinion, inclusion is a wonderful thing. It is fun to be included, and it prevents people from being lonely or depressed.
Inclusion has helped me accept all people how they are and helping others if they need someone.
I like coming to science to sing fun songs and make new friends.
Inclusion is a kind thing to do so everyone isn't sad, mad, or left out.
It helps with learning how to help others and understand that everyone has different situations.
So, I like to go to art, music, and gym. For the help.
So we now have a short video for you to watch that our staff made to show you all the great things that we're doing at North Salem.
One of our SMART goals at North Salem this year was to acclimate 1 to 4 life skills students from our life skills program into the regular ed classroom setting. This goal requires a lot of planning and coordination of services. North Salem has teamed up with the Include Need program sponsored by the ARC of Pennsylvania. Their coordinator, Julie Rasmussen, has been an integral part of this process. This program was referred to us by Kathy Geyer in the Department of Exceptional Children. I would like to thank the North Salem staff for embracing this initiative. Inclusionary practices require a lot of planning, collaboration, and patience. I appreciate all of the hard work our staff has done to make this goal possible.
My name is Julie Rasmussen, and I am with the ARC of Pennsylvania Include Me program. We are funded through the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and we are an education inclusion program. I am their inclusion consultant that's here working in Dover School District this year. And my job and privilege is to come here in Dover School District and work with the educational teams to help support moving special education students into inclusive classrooms. I help to devise the modifications and accommodations that help students to be successful in inclusive education in those mainstream classrooms. I also help to educate teachers. I help to provide professional development, help on collaborative teams. I also offer parent trainings and help to bring the teams together so we can help those students to really be successful as they are pushing into those mainstream classrooms. And that's what I do as the Education Inclusion Consultant for Include Me. One of the initiatives that Include Me had the opportunity to bring to North Salem Elementary this year was Michaela's Voice. Michaela's Voice offers an inclusion education assembly. This brings the entire student body together to begin the conversation about inclusion and differences. It's based off of a book that Michaela Resch's third grade classroom wrote when she was included in their third grade mainstream classroom. So this then opened the opportunity for us to have the conversation here at North Salem Elementary. I hope that you are able to enjoy seeing the pictures from our students and their inclusion that's occurring here at North Salem and all that the staff is doing to help support it.
With Gracie, and I'm in 4th grade. Gracie, what did you think about the assembly? I think it was pretty neat to see someone a little bit different, and they're still like us. Did you have a favorite part? Probably the whole time that we were able to see her, to know what she looks like. That was my favorite part too. Did you learn anything from the assembly? I learned that you can still be friends with people who are different and they're really no different than you.
Coda, what are we building?
Hey, Liz.
Did 3 sticks to try to support it, and then we're gonna put these probably on the bottom to see if it will hold it.
The students have so much exposure to such wonderful science content, and it's so important for them to have this exposure, but I also like the relationships they have built throughout the school. They're not just with life skills students classroom with 6 to 8 students, they're with 60 students. They have made so many friends and developed so many friendships, and they've learned so many important social skills.
I know I have really enjoyed having the 2 students I have. They really work well with the other students in my class, and it just brings a whole different perspective to our room because everybody is helping everybody and they really enjoy having others there.
I think that it also, just like inclusion as a model, really speaks to the diversity that students see in the world that they live in. So it really teaches them to be kind and that there are differences amongst people. One day amongst their coworkers there will be differences, and it's a really good safe spot to have that conversation, and it allows us to be really creative as educators as far as how we're going to meet everybody's needs.
I would like to thank my teachers for working with me so well this year, Mrs. Ashton Gensler and Miss Emily Ronaldo. Thank you so much with the planning and the dedication that you have put in to meet my students' needs this year. I also like to thank Christopher Cobb for all of his support and Julie Rasmussen. And we also have a dedicated paraprofessional that helped us out this year, Emily Gum. We'd like to thank all of these people for making inclusion so successful for our students.
I just have 2 quick things to say. First of all, I wanted to bring over our painting. You might have seen this displayed at the North Salem lobby. We have this displayed in the front lobby at North Salem. It's called One Yellow Spot, and this painting was actually, it came to us, it was donated from the ARC and Michaela's Voice, and you might not realize this, but that painting was developed by students all over the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania with disabilities. A lot of those lines and those types of things are wheelchair lines. So that painting was developed by students with disabilities. Another note I would like to add is, as the board's aware, we brought back some of those services from the IU in our life skills classes at North Salem 2 years ago. And we had a goal this year to acclimate 3 to 4 students into our regular ed setting. And I am proud to announce that I don't even know how many we have at this point, because once we started acclimating some of these students into science class and the regular ed setting, it just became contagious, and it was a benefit for all. All of our students really appreciate and enjoy the friendship that they brought to the class, the different dynamic you've heard from the teacher, and it's just been a wonderful experience, and it would not be possible without the students that are sitting here tonight, so I'd like to thank them for that too.
That was a wonderful presentation. And boys and girls, thank you very much for coming tonight. I know it's not easy for you to get up in front of all these grown-ups in the room here, but you did a fantastic job. So another round of applause for you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, our next presentation tonight is Project Max with Mrs. Geyer and Mrs. Strasbaugh.
Yeah, right back here. And Jared's hiding back there, so. All right, so tonight what we're doing is we're actually highlighting 2 separate initiatives that we started this school year. One, you just got to see the Include Me program, and at the high school we've been doing MAX. It was formerly known as Project Max. It was actually a program that was started several years ago at the state level at Patton, and then it kind of filtered down into the IUs. Now the IUs are running it as coaches, and they're creating internal coaches in districts who choose to participate. So while they're 2 very different initiatives, what they have at the core is the same presumption, and that is the presumption of competence. And it's not just competence in social skills, but it's competence in academics. Because what we typically do when we think of students who are so cognitively discrepant that, oh my gosh, they couldn't possibly do what your typical students would do. And I think what we're learning, we especially learned this time, is you give those kids something and they're going to run with it.
So with Max, what we're bridging actually are two different things. We have content and we have philosophy. The content is actually the alternate eligible content. You're familiar with the PA core standards. The alternate eligible content is actually standards that are derived from that. And what they do at the state level is they've taken those PA core standards and said, okay, what do we want all kids to know? Not just students who are in typical classrooms, but all students in our schools. And that's where that content was. What do we want our kids to know, be able to understand and do? And then they bridge that with Max with philosophy, which is actually understanding by design, or also universal design for learning. You've heard about UDL, and what that really is you can picture it, it's kind of appropriate here with a building project. If you think about building a new house or a new school, and you have to build an entranceway into it, but you only have two options. You can build stairs, you can build a ramp. If you build stairs, the only people that can access that building are the ones who are self-ambulatory. They can actually walk themselves into that building. If you build a ramp, well, then everybody can access it. And what we're trying to do in Dover is create experiences for all of our students that everyone can have, all opportunities for students. Max has done that for us. So what we did is back in August, we got a team together, and you see some of them here. Jared is, there he is, our principal. So you have Jared. Bobby Strasbaugh has served as the internal coach for this. We've got Mandy Oswald, our classroom teacher. We've got Karen Mayer, our paraprofessional in the classroom. And you wouldn't be, when we went to our training, people were like, you brought a paraprofessional along? And we're like, well, yeah, she's kind of an important part of the team, you know? But apparently that's not typical. And then we have Sarah Beam, who is our regular ed math teacher, specifically our algebra teacher. We also had a parent that was on our team because we needed a parent perspective, and that's actually a requirement of the initiative. It is a 3-year commitment, so we are committed to doing this. Two of the things that we did learn when we got there is, number one, that for all the teams that have participated in this initiative for the last several years, very few are high schools. So when I said to our coordinator, I think we should need to do high school, and they thought, are you sure about that? And I said, yes, our high school is right for this. We are ready. We have the culture because the kids are already throughout the school and included, but now we need to ramp up the academics. The other thing that we learned is that very few choose math. Now, you know who's sitting, and segue into, and you notice who's sitting next to me, so you can probably guess why we chose math. But she's going to explain why it was actually the most appropriate thing to do for our students.
Everybody knows that you're going to have stronger learning if you're connecting your learning to content that students have prior knowledge of or content that they're interested in. So the reason that we, other than the fact that I was the internal coach, that we used math as our subject area is because our life skills students at the high school run their coffee business, CAP. And they already had a natural connection between the money that was coming in based on the amount of coffee that they sold. So since they already had this natural connection to authentic data, we decided that using math in our Max initiative would be a good natural place to pull the data from for them to start to learn the process of algebra. So some of the actual regular education standards that we connected their Max lesson to involve things like connecting data, displaying data in a table, graphing the data, looking for patterns in the data, and looking for missing pieces of data in the data sets. And that sounds like regular high school algebra, but they were doing this at the level that made sense to them. The whole idea of designing the lesson is to take those alternate eligible content standards and build a very extensive unit plan for it that not only gives tiers of levels of understanding, but it actually plans all the way down to each individual student and what kind of adaptations and modifications you might need for them to have access to that regular education curriculum. So that's kind of why we chose math, because we had data that the students were very, very interested in. I think the aha moment for me in this whole process is it is a process and you have to follow the process like anything else, and you feel like it's happening too slowly. Everybody was a little impatient at times. It's like, how can it take this long to build just one unit? And we got to the point one day where we were designing the actual lessons. We got down to the moment in time where we were designing actually what was happening in the classroom throughout each lesson. And I remember just sitting back in my chair and just letting these guys start to design. And in my mind, I thought, this is exactly the same kind of planning that goes into any other lesson plan, any other unit. It's no different. And it was just very cool to me to see that we had followed the process, done everything we were supposed to do, and we came to that moment. So the math vocabulary and the things that they were discussing was just like any other algebra classroom. So that was kind of the neat part for me in the whole process. Do we wanna?
Yeah, we're going to do that, and then they're going to.
Okay, all right.
Data! You need some data!
The dog that I have at the front.
We did data tables, we did bar graphs, we did static data, we did a row of digital data. The best part about it is Miss O teaches that, and I learned most of it about Duramax, and I love doing graphs and all of that.
Yeah, so that is normal cookie jar and more $5. $5 get one jar. And if you want 2, you could get 2 on $10. And 3, $15, 4, $20, 5, $25. And the total cost, using the jar, so you get 5, and that would be $25.
Okay. My got in the graph is a visible display of data,
Tables and tally marks. Data and graphs. Data and graphs and learning about the definitions and the vocabulary definitions and vocabulary words. And learning about line graphs and parts of a line graph. And learning how to graph the data.
I'm learning about the difference of rows of columns and data put into like each row, and I'm learning also like about the graph, how it goes up, such that it goes down, and that's people buy stuff, and like how it should, like how much you want, how much is down.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Number of punch cards sold. Okay. Punch cards sold. And tell me something about your line. It's straight. Okay, and what else? It's increased. It's increasing, very good. Alright. Increase. Yeah, your line increases too. Nice job.
I love Duramax.
I just wanted to point out a few things. In the video, they're all holding their interactive notebooks that we started this year. And it was a nice place for them to keep all of their information. We put our vocab words in there. We put some visual representations of our words and any work that we did during Max. And it was nice for them to be able to go back and use that as a reference the whole way through if they had forgotten something or wanted to relook something up. And I will just say through this whole process, at the beginning when Mrs. Straswell started talking about linear functions and graphs and all of these words that I was like, oh, I'm not used to teaching this. I was overwhelmed, but through the process, I've learned that it's not that difficult to do, and it's just neat seeing my students go to the next step. And I'm excited next year to take it into English and language and to do that in coordination with the math that we've done this year. So it's been a really great experience, and I'm glad we've had the opportunity to do it.
Yes, and I think along with that, I just need to add, because we learn a lot about presuming competence, it's not just one-dimensional set of words that looks cute on a T-shirt. It's such a multi-dimensional thing. And as Mandy's saying, we're hearing these words that are normal for 11th grade algebra and whatnot, and we're overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, how can I do this? How can I do this? And I realized I need to presume competence for myself also. That yes, we can do this, and it is a doable thing, and it is beautiful. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. And as they said, it's that people are like, oh my goodness, a paraprofessional being welcomed, and I do appreciate that opportunity. And I hope that I can continue to grow with the program and help my fellow paras learn to presume competence too. So it's really just a wonderful growing opportunity for the entire district. And I'm thrilled to be a part of the foundation. So thank you.
Me being a general education teacher, it's really allowed me to appreciate everything that happens down in their classroom, because sometimes we're kind of removed, but like being able to have conversations with Mandy and Karen and just, like Bobby said, going through that lesson planning process of how it really is the same in my classroom and in their classroom, which has been really cool to work with them.
So yes, so thank you.
Thank you. Two great presentations tonight. Okay, next is our public comment period. This is for items on or off of tonight's agenda. It's a 3-minute period, so if you have anything you'd like to comment on, please come to the microphones and state your name and address for the record. Okay, with that, we will move on to our next individual, Mr. Stefanovich from the township, for an update for us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I brought some diagrams along. Last month we were talking about the Eagle View Park, and there were some questions. So I didn't get up on the computer, but brought some along for us. And you may have to share. I don't know if I have enough for everyone.
Thank you.
The first one shows the overall park. And the second one has to do a little bit more with that trail that was discussed. The park is progressing. We have had a little setback on some of our funding, but we're moving forward, like all of us. And the second picture that shows the ADA compliant trail that goes from the back of the tennis courts down through, and that is basically on the school property itself, and then could go over to the Reservoir Drive over at the borough, is intended to be a walking trail. As it says there, it is near floodplain level. But the idea and the position of it is trying to keep away from 2 bridges and make it accessible to the people from the township, and then they could come the whole way around over to the side of the football field. The funding that we're pursuing would put the trail in if everyone agrees on its position and everything else. It is not going to be a road per se. It is strictly an ADA compliant trail, but it could be used in emergency use by a vehicle like that. The original idea is over at the end at the reservoir, wherever it would come into a street over there, would be lockable ballards or something like that, so that you could not, drive a vehicle in there. So that's the initial idea that we have here. And part of this is initial. This is nowhere near finalized yet. We really are looking more into the 2019 timeframe when we would do this. We're still looking at a multi-phase approach. The floodplain restoration is like a job in itself, a project in itself, and that's where the educational session or the educational positions will be down along the creek area, and there'll be like little places for people, students, or whatever to sit and I mean do whatever they're would like to at that time. On the main picture that shows Eagle View Park, the area in red, if you see it, the red dotted, that area there is going to be like our phase 1. That's what we're shooting at anyway, and we're going for our initial funding right now. And then behind that would be the baseball fields and the rest of the park. So I don't think realistically it's all going to happen at one time. I think the phased approach is probably the way it's going to go, unless somehow magically we get a lot of funding all in one short period of time. But we all know what that's like. So I didn't know if there's any other questions on that. There probably would be a more formal get-together between us when it comes time to decide, what we might do. And I didn't know if there was any questions at this time on. I knew there was some discussion last time on it.
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Stefanovich, how is this being communicated to the townships overall, or the residents of the township overall? Is there stuff on the website of the township or through the newsletter or stuff like that?
It's on the website.
Okay.
And of course, we put out our agendas, same as everybody, and we discuss it sometimes in work sessions before our meetings, and then other times actually in the meetings. So that there is a small committee headed up by our recreation director that is working with the designers and the people that are involved with helping to set the whole project up.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions from our board members? Okay.
Not on that? Okay. A couple other quick things then. Just for your information, this past month there were 14 permits issued for new homes in our area. This is just in Dover Township. And as far as the things that are happening long-term, our sewer upgrades are still going on as planned, more or less. The weather doesn't help those people at all, I'm sure. You can appreciate that, trying to get that done. But one important one that we're really working on is what we call the north of the borough, and that's where sewer and water is going to go up Carlisle Road. And with the lay of the land, there is going to be a pumping station, the same as the school will have one. That will sort of be our first formal pumping station in the system. The system pretty much is gravity at present. And we may go the whole way up to Blackberry now. There was a little bit of a discussion about that. So if the expense is not too great to get that far, the lay of the land might allow us to do so, to take water and sewer the whole way up to Blackberry. So there has been a site identified for the pumping station, and the people that own it have been contacted, and that's moving forward. And I believe actually it was presented to DEP this past week. So that's another one that's going to be happening there. I'm trying to think here if there's anything else. One thing that has come to our attention, and it's more as a overall in the township, wireless communications, as we all know, is everywhere, and towers for our phone systems and other things have started to pop up in other areas. Not as much here in Dover, but if they stay in a public right-of-way, they sort of can just put a 15, 20-foot tower up in front of your house or a business or whatever. So we have approached some specialists on this issue, and probably will be suggesting some laws in Dover to curb it a little bit and to maybe need approval before they can just come in front of anybody's property, even though it's a public right-of-way, and put these towers up. So that's something that we're working on right now, and we'd like to move forward with that pretty quick before it gets us someplace that we don't like it. Then that's pretty much it right now. Is there any questions?
Yes, over at Admire and Davidsburg Road, is that basically all sewer and the extension of Admire Road, or is there other things going on?
Well, I think there are some developments that were approved over in that area and going up Admire Road, but a lot of that intersection work that's going on over there has to do with the drainage ditches and the piping underground to get that according to PennDOT regulations and everything.
I've seen there's an awful lot of work. I didn't know if they were starting a development over there already, or if it's just sewer and road work.
I can't honestly answer that right now. I don't remember. It's mostly sewer in that, but I know Admire Road is going to continue on across and connect out into one of those developments. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
The extension of the sewer to the north side of Dover. I'm just curious, what is the long-term goal of that work that's being done? Is it being done to improve the current system, or is it done with the potential expansion to commercial base? Or just curious what the long-term goals are.
It pretty much started with the church asking us if we could get sewer up to their facility so that they could expand. But a lot of it is because of commercial usage up that road. Another ulterior thing that's going to happen is sewer actually from Harmony Grove down to about Jim and Nina's today, I believe, goes into the borough, and that is township. There has been for a long time a project out there trying to figure out how to get the township sewer into the township sewer plant. So not only is it going to help with commercial going up north, but we are going to change and go across the property at Jim and Nina's, and the sewer from that area is going to go to the township facility, which is something that the borough facility really needs, because I believe they're pretty much overburdened with the volume. So there were two things there. One, we wanted to get all of the township sewer out of the borough if we could, and then the other is we needed to move up north to be able to pick up other commercial properties or allow commercial to come in up there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, I just wanted to thank the township as well. We do hear from our administrators and our architects and the folks at the township has been very cooperative and supportive and helpful with our building projects. We do appreciate all of your efforts on that too. Thank you very much.
I assume everyone knows the plan was approved on Monday night.
Yes.
And we're moving forward. Yeah. Yes, quickly, I believe. Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board's President's communication. We will be having an executive session immediately following this meeting tonight for the purposes of beginning the process of Superintendent Croom's evaluation. So with that, we'll move on to our committee reports. Our first one is the Capital Project Steering Committee. We're going to ask Mr. Nelson to report out on this, if he would, please.
Good evening. We had a committee meeting tonight and to talk a little bit about the project. We did cover a little bit of our guess at what the budget might come in at, but right now it's just really a guess. So the paper that I gave each of you tonight, the packet I gave you, I should say, deals with alternates. And on bid day, we have what's considered a base bid by 5 different prime contractors. We have a general contractor, a site contractor, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. I think I covered them all. So with that said, we tried to design the building and give everybody exactly what they wanted. And there was some things that we thought, well, you know, it'd be really nice if we could get that, but we don't know if we can get it in base bid and still hit our budget. So we put them in as alternates. So what you'll notice in this document, the first page on the very top just kind of tells you a little bit about what an alternate is. And if you flip the page over to the second page, you'll notice that this is for the general construction or the GC. And it kind of explains what each alternate is. So we have a GC1, a GC2A, a GC2, and so forth. And it tells you what the different alternates are. So we'll get a chance at on bid day to maybe say, okay, well, we'd really like to have exterior video message display board or something. And the contractor, all these alternates are going to be on their bid. So they're going to give us a base bid to do the project, and then they're going to give us a price on each alternate. So what you're seeing here is this packet is for each of the 5 primes that are in this project. When you get back to probably about halfway back, you'll notice that the paper changes a little bit, and it just says like GC1 unclassified. It says add, and then it has a baseline on there with nothing in it. When we get our bids in, each one of these will have a number in. And you'll look at that then on bid day and say, okay, the GC's bidding at $45 million. Let's just throw that out there. And if we want to add terrazzo flooring in the corridors and stairs, that might be another $500,000. I don't know. It's hard to say. But we'll be able to go down through here and look at this. The first 4 or 5 here are adds. So that's things that you would actually add cost to your bid. And then we have some deducts down there because what if we come in over budget over what we want? We need to have places we can take stuff, sort of take it away. It's like buying a new car. You really like to have every little bell and whistle that's on it, but maybe you can't afford it all, so maybe you take the automatic lift gate off or something, or you take the fancy radio out. Well, that's kind of what this is. So this is your adds and deducts. So we wanted to talk about this tonight and get it before the board so that they could sort of get a snapshot at this and kind of look at the different alternates and really what we're talking about. So when we get down to the bid day, which is three weeks away, you kind of have an idea what we're talking about. I went over that really quick, but any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
When will that meeting take place?
It should be on the calendar for June 5th.
June 5th. So that's when we meet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Has there been expected interest from, bigger players in this as far as...
I left that paper at my seat.
Oh, okay.
We currently have 2 general contractors that at least that we know pulled plans. Both are local, so to speak. Both are very good, very qualified. We had, I think, 5, help me out. I'm struggling. Can't remember. We had 4 site work contractors. That site work is pushing dirt, digging holes, that kind of stuff. We had 5 HVAC contractors pull plans. We have 7 electrical contractors, and we have 5 plumbing contractors that pulled. So we have a pretty good pool here. Personally, I'd like to see 1 or 2 more GCs, but the 2 that are there, they're going to fight over this. They really are, because they both want it. So that's good for us. They want to work. This is a 2+ year project. It's close to home. I mean, they're going to win so big with their cost of getting back and forth to job, hauling stuff. Their workers are going to love it because they're not going 2 hours away. They're not staying overnight and that kind of stuff. So they're going to fight hard for it. So both of them are out of Dillsburg. So I won't tell you who they are, but you can figure it out. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you. Facilities and safe and supportive schools. Mr. Rawhauser.
Yes, communications is everything, and tonight it was very poor. We didn't have no person there from facilities, and our head of the facilities committee called in sick, and we were kind of lost as what we were supposed to do, and we were done in 10 minutes. 808 attachment was presented, and that is to be put on the board agenda for next month for approval. It has to do with the lunch program. And the other thing that was given, Jen gave us from athletic director, 72 pages of an update on our program. So that pretty well takes care of the committee. What happened the other night and the drain plugged up? Did dirt come in somewhere or what?
Yeah, basically, a drain, it'd be harder to explain than that'd take me 20 minutes to tell you how it is. But basically, when the construction was done at the high school, they didn't do the drain lines right, which that shouldn't surprise anybody. Instead of having a lateral come into a collection box, they thought they'd save a little money and a couple feet of pipe and just bore a hole in the side of an existing pipe and stuff it in. And they didn't just stick it in a little bit, they stuffed it all the way through. So over time, it kept building up mud underneath the pipe. It was only about this far off the bottom. It's a 6-inch diameter pipe, which ends up being about 7 inches outside diameter. Built up mud in the bottom, and when that got finally packed and tight, it started building up over top of it. And the amount of rain that we had as quickly as we had it the other night, it was just too much, too fast, too quick to get rid of it. So that in a nutshell is what happened. We have been in the pipe today, jetted it out, got all the debris out that we can get out. It's pretty clean. And we have a plan to excavate and get down there and put that, at least get it in the pipe right so that it's not, it's going into a pipe about 18 to 20 inches in diameter. They ran a 6-inch pipe and they ran it almost all the way through and it hits the opposite wall. So we're going to, cut it back and try and maybe turn it a little bit because it's actually the water flows this way and the pipe's coming in that way. So it's kind of like everything wrong that you could do, they did on that, but doesn't surprise me really. So
thank you for your explanation.
We had a lot of water, but we cleaned it up in a hurry, and everything seems to be okay right now. So hopefully we'll get through this weekend.
Mr. Rawhauser, could you clarify for us the item that you mentioned that's going to come before the board next month for approval? What exactly is that? What item is coming to us?
Has to do with the meal charge policy, about collecting. It's been talked about for a while. Here it says when students have $8 or less in their account, phone calls are made and weekly checkups. And I was given one copy tonight. And it's something that's been discussed, and we figure it needs to be put on the agenda for June.
Policy that we actually revised last, I think it was July or so, needed to be updated for the changes to the lunch shaming laws. Because when we updated it, we put language in there that limited what kids could charge on for meals. So if they didn't have any money in their account, then they couldn't charge anything. So after the new law came out on the lunch shaming, we are no longer allowed to deny the kids to charge because they have to be given a meal. So the language was added for that and the collection efforts on unpaid meal charges.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on now to comprehensive planning. Mr. DeLauder.
This evening, we basically looked at 3 different areas. The first one I'm going to talk about are the policy reviews. We looked at, actually 2 policies were presented to us for review. First one I'll talk about is just an easy one, is policy 121 concerning field trips. And the only thing that we did with that was, or they did with that, was added some language to that policy so that our field trip application forms and the policy are the same. So we added language that any field trips that are planned in advance, we need to have a 45 days, or I'm sorry, any field trips that require board approval need to have a 45-day application period ahead of time for us to get it approved, and then any other field trips need to have a 10-day advance notice for those. So that will be coming up next month. The second one is policy 111, which deals with lesson plans. This policy was last revised back in 2003. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. A lot of the revisions are a reflection of the last 2 days of training that the staff just participated in, and so it's going to reflect all those changes in there. They're going to have some guidelines on what's to be included in your lesson plans, but will allow for some professional discretion on the format. They will provide a template in the policy, but the teachers will not have to follow that template. They can, if they have something else, they are more than welcome to use that. And as I said, that the update will go with what the teachers and staff have been doing for the last 2 days. So again, both those policies will come up for our approval at next month's meeting. The second thing we talked about was the timeline for the comprehensive plan. As Ms. Krim stated on Tuesday, that is due next year, next November of 2019. And we went over basically the timeline of when we're going to start that, and we're actually going to start that relatively soon. And in June, July, we're going to start establishing a committee, talking about whether or not we'd like to have a community survey sent out as part of that comprehensive plan. Part of that is they're also asking the building principals. I guess the building principals are actually in the process now, correct, of getting some input from their teachers on what they would like to see included in this plan from an academic standpoint. So July, September is when the establishment of the committee will take place. In October, they're going to have their kickoff, basic kickoff meetings. They're going to look at the district profile. And Dr. Maloney, again, we're going to try and meet, that committee is going to try and meet on the nights of our planning meetings, correct?
Absolutely.
So again, we'll do that in October. In November, they're going to look at some data analysis, professional development, look at the professional development and induction plan. January 2019, we're going to look at the graduation requirements and student services. And the high school is right now, and the reason they're doing that is the high school has a committee ongoing that are looking at the overall requirements for graduation. That's separate from the plan, but they'd like to get that done so they can include that in our plan. February, we're going to start looking at analyzing the systems, looking at district level guiding questions, including building level ideas. In March of 2019, the special education plan presentation will take place. And again, we have to do that early because that has to be, the special education plan has to be first submitted to the state and approved by the state by May. I believe it was, I think it was somewhere May. So we're going to get that done first so we can, again, get that included, approved and included in our plan. April, we're going to look at prioritizing our challenges and actually going to start building the plan. And then in May, June, and July is where we're going to review that plan, review the process, and make any revisions necessary in that 3-month period. Our hope is in August of 2019 to bring it to the board for the preliminary presentation, and then send it out in September for the 30-day public review, so that we can vote on it at our October 19th or October 2019 meeting, and then have it submitted to PDE on November of 2019. So again, it's a pretty detailed plan, and Dr. Maloney again went through a lot of what she would like to do with it, and it's definitely comprehensive. And then I gotta say, between this and what I'm gonna talk about next, I had a headache, so I don't know how she deals with this every day, but more power to her on that. And then finally, the last thing we talked about is the getting ready for the rollout of the PA Ready Index, which is the state's new assessment tool for schools that should be pretty much replacing the SPP scores. Again, coming from the state, it's going to be used to evaluate this current school year, but we don't know what it's going to look like yet. So we have an idea. So there are 3 different categories that they're looking at that are going to be measured. One are statewide assessment measures, your PSSAs, Keystones, those types of things. As long as we have a 95% participation rate, nothing's going to change on that. If we fall below 95% of our students taking the test, those lack of students, I'll use that word, will count toward our proficiency. So our proficiency scores will fall if we fall below that 95%. So again, we're going to have to make sure that we're trying to encourage all our students to take these tests. We do have 2 targets. It's called a statewide interim target and an individual school improvement target. I'm not sure what they mean, a whole lot on that. And then from the statewide assessment measurement, we do what we call on-track measurements. They're going to be tracking chronic absenteeism. Again, that's our PIMS data, so we're in good shape there as far as making sure we're getting that there. So making sure that we, again, address our chronic absenteeism, making sure that our students are coming to school. And then we're going to be able to use our grade 3 and grade 3 reading and grade 7 mathematics for early indicators of success. And for the first year, we're going to use our PSSA data just as it's our baseline. But we do have the option of using our MAP data and CDT data as well, using that. And then they're also going to look at our English language proficiency, how our students, how well our English language learners are progressing with that. And then the third one, which I find very interesting, and I'm so glad now that we have our CTE program, is our career readiness standards. This is where they're looking at how well we're preparing our students for career after high school. They're going to be looking at the grades 5, 8, and 11. And again, they're going to look at the career and work standards. They're broken into 4 strands: career awareness and preparation, career acquisition, career retention and advancement, and entrepreneurship. I think we're really good on 3 of those. Correct, Mr. Benton? We are looking forward to improving our entrepreneurship abilities. All right, so I'm still not real sure of these. Grades K through 5, there are 6 artifacts. So in other words, 6 areas where these students have to take a reflection of how the student or how the class is going to help them with their career readiness. So we're going to have to take a look at so we're going to take a look at their data. They're going to tell us how that's working. Grades 6 to 8 have 6, and then grades 9 to 11 we're going to have another 8. And then the other thing they're going to look at also is our industry-based learning indicators for data collection, monitoring, and reporting. And again, how they're going to do that is using the industry standards competency assessments, our NOCTIs, NIMS, and those types of things. Any of our industry recognized credentials and a work-based learning experience. One of the questions that I had asked Mr. Benton on that was, how would we make this if we didn't have our CT program? And I guess many schools who don't have a CT program like we have are really worrying about how are they going to meet that. And I guess Mr. Benton has been overwhelmed with phone calls on what we're doing. So I feel lucky from a school that we're ahead of the curve there on that one. And then finally, a rigorous course of study looking at how many advanced classes we have, such as AP, dual enrollment, college and high school, those types of things, and how many of our students are actually participating in those higher level classes. So again, it's a huge change. It sounds like coming up. As I said, we will be assessed using this new format for this current school year, which we're hoping, I'm not sure when we hope that to come out for. Do we know at this point?
SPP usually is released sometime in the fall.
Okay.
Make that assumption.
So that's our assumption. Like I said, a lot of information. And I'll take any questions, but I probably can't answer any questions. So.
Your report out was longer than Mr. Rawhauser's whole committee meeting, so we all know which committee we want to go to from now on, right? Any questions?
The ready to learn reporting, that's state monitored, correct? That's a state Is that a change? Was the current program with the SPP, was that also state?
Mm-hmm.
That was also state. So the No Child Left Behind was federal, was it not?
Yes.
And then that switched to state?
Yes.
Okay, so there's, at least it's being monitored by the same.
What I think we're not sure of is we have federal accountability, so we have to have a tool that matches federal accountability, but it's a state tool. And then we have to have a tool that goes into the teacher and principal's evaluation that has to have a number. This, from what we understand, doesn't have a number, correct? We don't know. We think that we don't know. We think this is like a web page, of all information, but we still have a principal and teacher evaluation that has to have a number. So I don't know that the SPP is going away. It's just going to sit out there for numbers. Yeah, we don't know.
And this is rolling out for the upcoming year.
Yes.
Oh yeah, for a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, for this year.
It's kind of like building a
great.
budget when you don't know what the budget looks like. Yeah. Feel your pain.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Human and Fiscal Resources, Mr. Cook and Mrs. Brenton.
Before I get into that committee meeting, I just wanted to mention, maybe as a reminder, we were talking about some policies that are coming up for board approval next month. On Tuesday night, we did approve the PSBA All Access Package for the upcoming year. One of the big benefits that we have with that package is help with these policy revisions, and it gives us a huge step in the right direction without doing it all on our own. So I know that was mentioned, or it was on our agenda for Tuesday night, and we approved it, but we didn't really talk about it at all, so I just thought it was worth mentioning. In our committee tonight, there are two things that we will actually need to vote on this evening, and I'll get to those in a minute. But we also talked about our insurance package, which will be coming before the board next month. That's a yearly renewal. It happens for the period between July 1st and June 30th of the next year. So it's a fiscal year policy or fiscal year program that all our insurances. That includes like liability, workman's comp, all those sorts of things that are part of that package. We are going to see an anticipated pretty sizable increase coming up this year. It's going to amount to about 13.7% or $38,000 overall. Within that, the majority of the increase is really directed or tied towards workman's comp claims. Workman's comp goes back and looks at a 3-year period of time and then bases their rates on the number of incidents, the kind of incidents, that sort of thing. We had a pretty high year several years ago, not as bad of a year the last couple of years, but because of that, our rates are going up, and because of it's tied to payroll, as payroll goes up, those rates get impacted even more. So the majority of the increase that we're seeing is going to be tied to workman's comp, and within that, it's about a 28.5% increase just on workman's comp alone. The other factors that like the property insurance and some of the other insurances are pretty much flat line. So to accommodate that workman's comp increase, we're going to see an increase overall. With that being said, we're looking at some different workman's comp insurance vendors as a just kind of checking to see whether something more cost effective might be out there. General feel is it's probably not going to happen just based on the fact that, you know, if a new vendor will just strictly look at the last 3 years of history and may end up being higher than what our current vendor has, and knowing the things that have been put in place to help, you know, limit our exposure in the last few years, which have made a difference. A new vendor might not see that. So anyhow, but they're doing their due diligence and checking out to see what else might be out there. That package will be coming before us in June. We also had, and Jen, I apologize, I didn't write the name of the agreement that was in there with the York County Children and Youth Services. What was the name of that?
So it's an agreement with York County Children and Youth for our transportation services for foster care. It has to do with Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. And what it does is it allows us to share costs with another district, and also the County Children and Youth Agency.
So it's like a one-third cost. So it's a great program. That'll be on our agenda as well for June.
Yep.
Coming up. And then the two items that we need to vote on tonight, the Homestead Farmstead resolution, that looks like pretty much the same parameters as what we had last year. So that's up for a vote. That's necessary to have a vote on. And then appointments is listed there. The reason behind the appointments tonight, we have a candidate up for board approval for 2 positions, the varsity head basketball coach and the assistant coach. The reason that it's pressing and that we're doing that tonight is because normally this would have been something that would have been taken care of in March and would have been ready to go for the summer here, but we didn't have the ability to do that at that time. And so it's important that the board votes to approve this candidate so that they can interact with the students over the summertime for, you know, contact and that sort of thing. So that's why that's up for approval tonight. Also, Christina talked a little bit about what's coming up that we can anticipate in June with multiple hirings. We approved on Tuesday night the need for 5 additional elementary teachers. There's a number of other positions that are being interviewed for right now. So a lot of things happening right now. We have some very good long-term substitute candidates that are in the mix for those positions as well. So there's a lot of positive things that are coming to light with this interview process that's going on. Currently underway with department chairs at the intermediate school as well. So it's a lot happening that will need to happen between now and next month to try to get those positions all filled and ready to go so that those candidates will be ready to go come August. So look for a rather lengthy appointment list coming up next month. So, Britton, did I miss anything? Okay. Jen, anything?
I think
Anything?
the only thing that you may have missed, I didn't hear, was there is also an action item for the transfer on the agenda.
Okay, I did miss that. I apologize for that.
Question on the insurance. Mrs. Benko, is that built into the budget that we just approved, or did that news come after the budget was developed?
Yes, it is built in.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2018-2019 Homestead Farmstead Resolution per the enclosure.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Benko? The motion carries. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Nicholas Staub as the head varsity girls basketball coach.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Mrs. Benko? Motion carried. And at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the transfer of Tyler Smith to the position of assistant varsity head coach for girls basketball.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or discussion? Mrs. Benko? And the motion carries. Next is our miscellaneous period for any other comments or observations from our board members tonight. Does anybody have anything else?
Yes, last night attended the the awards banquet, which I thought went very nice, a lot better this year than last year.
Nice.
And I don't know if anybody totaled up the total amount of scholarships money was given out, or maybe it got too high for somebody to add up to. And the thing that really caught my attention is that the energetic young students we have in the school, of all the things they can participate in and still get good grades and keep their energy up. That's the part that really caught my attention, how ambitious some of our school students are.
It was a great night. Anybody else?
Just echoing on those comments, just to participate in an evening like that where so many people are highlighted, it really makes you excited about what our future is, and to see what these students are doing and performing. It's almost mind-blowing. I mean, this whole week has been like that. You talk about Mars Rover, you talk about things that are happening at our elementary schools, and it really makes you excited to be a board member and a parent and a community member in this district. And you couple that with, you know, people who are wanting to come here and work, and the excitement that is happening right now. And it really is an exciting time. And we've got some really good staff members who connect with their kids and make it a point to really make a difference and make an impact on their kids that they, you know, see day in and day out. And our kids today really need that. Our kids today really need a place, a safe haven, a person that they can really trust and respect. And just, you know, it gets a little bit emotional for me, but this is a really exciting time of the year when you think about graduation coming up and you think about the academic awards. And it was, I agree, Mr. Rollhauser, it was a great night. It was impactful in many, many ways. So just thank you to everybody, you know, whether you're here, whether you're watching. Thank you to everybody that's a part of that process that makes it happen, because it's very exciting.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to our last public comment period. If anybody has anything they'd like to state, please come to the microphones. Seeing nobody on the move, we will move on to our next meetings. We do have a special meeting on June 5th for the opening of the bids for the high school building project. And then our next board meeting will be June 19th, 2018. That's a Tuesday evening. There will be no committee or planning meetings in June. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.